Hi, this is Mr. Evans. This video is going to look at the level of employment, and you need to know how and why businesses might be affected by changes in the levels of employment. Just quickly, I just realised after posting the last video that I've made a bit of a mistake. I put that rising interest rates are generally positive for businesses. That should have read generally negative. Rising interest rates tend not to be good for businesses, whilst falling interest rates tend to be more positive for businesses. Watch my last video if you want more information on that. So just to give a bit of context before we get into the level of employment, this shows the level of unemployment in the UK economy, and I've done it on a historic basis for you. So you can see in the 1980s, the early 1980s, mid 1980s, around the time of Thatcher, unemployment was extremely high in the UK at 12%. We had another spike in the recession of the early 90s. Then there was a long period of falling unemployment up to the global financial crisis of 2007. And this was arguably a far bigger recession than the recessions that you can see here, where unemployment went to really quite high levels. So lots of economists were surprised that unemployment didn't rise higher than this. And unemployment is really now at quite a very low level. I'm recording this in February 2019, and unemployment is quite low. So what do we mean by the level of employment? The level of employment is the percentage of the working age and the population who actually have a job. This is unemployment, the percentage of the working age population that don't have a job. Now, when there are high levels of employment, it tends to be good for consumer confidence. People tend to have higher disposable incomes because they've got jobs. And not only that, wages tend to be higher when there's high levels of employment, because businesses need to increase. If there's lots of unemployed people in the local area, businesses can get away with paying relatively low wages because people want to work, they want to get some money. But when unemployment is relatively low, when there aren't many people looking for jobs, if businesses want to attract people to work for them, they have to increase their wages. So high levels of employment is associated with high levels of consumer confidence, high levels of disposable income, and demand for luxury goods and services would tend to rise at this point when there's high levels of employment. However, it's not all good news for businesses, because businesses are going to have to recruit new staff, which might be difficult because there's not many unemployed people. And as I said, wage levels would tend to rise because businesses need to pay more to attract workers. So there are pros and cons of high levels of employment. In terms of demand, this is good news, because particularly if you're selling a luxury good or service, falling unemployment or high levels of employment associated with increases in income, increases in consumer confidence, but businesses may find it harder to recruit staff and may have to pay higher wages in order to do so. So on the other hand, when there are low levels of employment, in other words, there are lots of people looking for work, lots of people out of work, consumer confidence tends to be quite low. People don't have an awful lot of money to spend. They lack confidence, they're not going out spending huge amounts of money, and demand for goods and services is generally lower. But maybe if you're working for a business like Pound Saver or something like that, you may benefit from increases in demand because consumers want your products. Finally, businesses might find it easier to recruit new staff though. All right, so when there are low levels of employment, it might be easier for businesses to recruit staff as lots of people are looking for work. Businesses don't have a huge amount of pressure to pay high wages because people are desperate for work basically and want to get work. And therefore, okay, it's not great news in terms of demand for businesses, but if businesses are expanding and wanting to recruit new staff, then they're going to have a lot of people to choose from, and they might not have to pay that much money to get them. Apologies for the sound of hoovering out in the corridor there. I hope it didn't disturb the video too much.